Thanks for joining with the Club AI Conclave, and we are doing this recording at PSL Lanka. Thanks for PSL for supporting that. So today I have with me a couple of guests actually. Uh, Focuses on Dr. Arashan Indulgence, who's promoting the use of AI for internal audit. So that's a complete different type of a domain that we have not usually used. So thanks for being here with us to talk about it. And then we are joined by Charles Disanaita, who's into network and audit, leading that domain. And we have Nagaru from Nagar, who's a senior solutions architect. So we help with Nagaru on having a conversation with Roshan and Rindu to talk about how to use AI for internal audit. But the story of how you set up the internal audit department and dialogue was quite interesting, Arshan. So I think I'd like to start with that conversation because for us, internal audit typically means the use of financial regulations, those policies, checking whether those are actively happening, and then making sure those internal processes are fine-tuned in that way. But it was interesting to hear how you brought aspects of the operational side of the company into the audit department. Not only you did that, you actually created a certain organizational structure that hopefully kept on going after you left that as well. But want to start with that? Maybe have a quick intro of yourself also by doing that.
Yeah, so thanks to Shan. Thanks for inviting me for this interview, and I do thank you. It's a pleasure getting to know you today. So yes, as Rushan mentioned, Rushan, core area of interest is internal audit, enterprise risk management, and my specific area of interest is actually ML ops, machine learning operations, which is integrated to enterprise risk management and internal. So, I must say I'm not an hardcore IT guy, I'm a hardcore finance guy. But the passion which I had on machine learning operations, the passion which I had on artificial intelligence actually made me come into this area. And even to date, I'm continuously working to revolutionize the area. So I think must say we actually started this exercise in 2018 was the visualization. So when I joined Dialogue as the group head of financial accounting and reporting, it was a typical hardcore finance job. And then 2 years down the line, I've been invited to join as the group chief internal auditor to Dialogue. So I'm doing my role transition, and usually what I did was I went to all the individual C levels, and I had this discussion on what exactly are your expectations from internal audit and what exactly are you getting from it. So, as the nature of all these organizations, all the C levels, they are continuously highlighting the matter that internal audit is kind of delayed to come into the picture. Many use the euphemism, okay, once the horse has left the stable, you guys come in and detect it. Also, internal audit didn't have the necessary skill set, didn't have the necessary knowledge. So, are you really adding value? And then also the policing function where internal audit comes in as the police, and people get into trouble. So this was a perspective I want to change, because if you look at internal audit, the traditional understanding is that internal audit is always ensuring that whether the financials are correct, whether the financial assurance can be provided to the board of directors and the shareholders. But then I think I would like to bring a very modern reading to internal audit, because when you come from the Sarbanes-Oxley standards and the latest corporate governance requirements from the shareholders, and also the most recent queries which has happened in the world, I think internal audit is a tool, or internal audit is a function which organizations still haven't 100% explored. Internal audit has so much potential where I actually feel that it should be like a battle formation in an organization. Because in the current marketplace, it's a battle for all the companies. It's a cutthroat competition for everyone. So once the organization has set its corporate strategy, then you should have a very strong function, which is called enterprise risk management, which should 100% scan and establish your entire risk universe, which should obstruct your company from achieving its corporate strategic requirements or the corporate strategic targets. So once the enterprise risk management division has done that, internal audit actually comes in and ensures that number one, the entire risk management universe which has been identified is correct. That means you exactly know what you're getting into and what exactly is blocking you from achieving your corporate objectives. And then the net risk, that is, if you take the entire set of gross risks which are stopping you from achieving that, and then you would have a certain set of controls, certain set of mechanisms which should stop these risks getting materialized. So internal should come and check actually whether these controls are working properly. Yeah, and also whether there are controls or whether they are risks we have not identified properly, and whether some of the controls, when we assume that they are working 100%, are they really working 100%? So that internal audit actually, I think, would consolidate the entire control environment of the organization, and it would be the last vehicle to push this battle formation so that the organization achieves its corporate objective. But very sadly, this doesn't happen. In practice, many organizations love to restrict internal audit into financial verifications and then also perhaps in a certain way blame internal audit that the internal audit has not been updating itself, and they are always late to the show.
Yes, the people kind of the mix of the internal audit and the external audit also. Exactly. I do this same internal audit as an external audit function.
Yes. And also, I think one of the contributory factors is always internal audit departments are led by financial performance, which is kind of, I think, a major put down for even operational auditors to get into the scene. Because I think even before my appointment at Dialog, I think all the internal auditors have been hardcore finances. So when you get hardcore finances, then they are also a bit reluctant to get into operations. But then if you are talking about this battle formation, what I understood was that we internal audit must possess the skill set, at least 90% of the skill set which the entire organization has. We must replicate at least 90% of the organization inside internal audit. So by that capability only, we are in a position to go to the organization, audit that organization, even the operational functions, and tell them, see, this control issue is wrong or this control deficiency is there. We have to rectify. So
now, when we touch upon the technical term, we better to clarify that for the audience. You said control issue, right? So when you also talk about previously when we just had a brief on this, when you want to put a control, you put a person in it.
Yeah.
And then taking off the control means making the person jobless. So that itself makes it not going to this huge mammoth Goliath, which kind of obstructs everything. Right? Can you touch upon that a little bit with the aspect of what a control?
Yes. So basically, if I go to the most basic definition of control sutra, you see that there is some kind of a risk. Say when you're signing a petty cash voucher, you see that the operation person signs it and there is no finance outflow. So there can be a possibility of a wrong transaction or a transaction which is not authorized getting into place. So then what you would do is you would get a person who is from finance to verify whether the control is there, whether the control is functioning, and by his signature you ensure that the control is in place. Now what we should understand is that when we bring a control, number one, there should be a risk we have to conquer. And number two, there is a new cost and a new chunk of time which is being added to the process. Now, internal audit, the traditional understanding is that internal audit loves to pile controls one top of each other. Right? But I think internal audit should be trained to identify what exactly is the risk and what is the least intrusive and least costly way to curb that specific risk. So that is where internal audit must be taught to look at the control design. So if internal audit is solely there just to place a person in lieu of a control, that's not going to work. That's what has happened in many organizations. The control environment The moment management sees some kind of a internal audit report, internal audit recommendation is okay, put a person to authorize this transaction, put a person to overlook this transaction, but it should not be the case. With that, what we are doing is we are piling up inefficiencies. The moment you get a person in, that person is going to pay the salaries, you will pay the fringe benefits, and also that person will be blocking the entire process where, he has to now check the entire process. He has to take his time to verify that, and after his control gate to be, the process can go ahead.
And for the near survival,
And for the survival, he's there.
he will make sure that it's
Exactly.
a process that stays, right?
Exactly. So, but now, what internal audit should be doing is internal audit should visualize the control flow, visualize the process flow, and ensure that they give an ideal control design so that it will not have additional cost to the organization. And in the same meantime, the organization should benefit from this additional control where the specific risk is curbed as well. So that actually comes from the tacit knowledge of the internal audit as well. So that is where you have to use plenty of information. You have to use, perhaps there might be certain set of controls which is actually compensating this control, but you don't actually see it. So that is where internal audit should first sit, visualize, identify the control flow, look at the costs, which will cost and the time factor which is going to affect the organization, and based on all these decisions only, the control should be decided.
Okay, in general conversion, which means that the process that you're going to look into, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, so we are going to streamline the process in internal.
Yes.
So, and it's not specifically to a particular department that you are going to streamline the process
Yeah.
of each and every part of this organization, where it can support
Yeah.
to the organization without an additional cost.
Exactly.
So I could grab one of the terms that you had in this conversation, which is risk. So what sort of risk that you could figure out? So we can see that some people risk, yeah? So different kind of risk can be identified. Which specific risk that
Risk can be multiple, because I think one of the primary risks which will come into mind is the financial risk. Because whenever you introduce an additional control, there is a financial factor coming in. Then you will have a certain operational risk where when the new control comes into play, there is a delay of timing. There's a delay of this person, looking at the specific control, delaying the entire process, asking additional questions, which would again put further bottlenecks to the smooth flow of the process. And also by bringing up a new person, that is creating another human capital risk for the organization as well. Because now there's another person in addition which you need to now look after the organization to meet the fringe benefits and so on. And also on top of it,
Also, what's the aspect of audit ensuring the risk?
yes,
Very
yeah, exactly. So I think that's a good point.
is the point?
It's a good point which we need to now take this steer this conversation into. Additionally, enterprise risk management and internal audit has been disconnected, which, in my opinion, is one of the cardinal rules the industry has. Because at the end of the day, but even as per the new internal audit standards for 2024, risk management should drive it. Because from the start, when I started internal audit, one of the first points I have been always pushing my internal audit. When you are trying to audit a certain function, first try to identify what are the objectives this function is trying to achieve. And you should be very clear about it. If you are not clear about the objectives which you want to achieve from a certain function, point is out auditing. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't have any value. Once you identify the objective, then you should clearly establish what are the risks which should obstruct the specific function from achieving this objective.
Yeah.
Say, for example, if a certain function is there to, let's say it's a call center function. If the function is supposed to give a solution to the customer within 2 minutes, right? And if I have a certain set of controls which is delaying that up to 8 minutes, that means my objective is not achieved. The risk is I'm delaying the process by 6 minutes, which means there is a customer who is not happy at all because because his request, which should have been cleared by 2 minutes, now takes 8 minutes. Yeah. So my job now is to address this exact risk. Why these delays happen? And that is where internal audit has to come into play. So internal audit has to exactly follow the risks which the organization has to face. Now, once the risks have been identified, first thing, as I told earlier, internal audit comes in and tries to establish whether all the risks have been identified. Because it's done by people, it's done by humans. Yeah, certain risk can be missed, certain significant risk can be missed.
One thing that I want to relate is that typically in IT we are used to projects and risks, right?
Yes.
But this is different to that because
different.
this is operational risk.
Right.
So these are risks that can happen and does happen every time the operation activities takes place and the audits operation. Audit is about ensuring those risks are minimized. But for projects, it's a different ballgame on the risk. So for us, when we say risk, we think about project risk.
Yes.
For audit, it's about operational risk.
Yeah, risk is everywhere. You just get up in the morning, right? You have the risk of falling from your bed.
Yeah.
Like you go to the bathroom, you have the risk of breaking your toothbrush or sleeping. So risk is a part of life. So, but internal audit does this. Internal audit replicates the same thing in the organizational process. Okay.